So we're going to start off with probably the biggest gaming news the past week. By the way, I did a solo CU podcast, and it was interesting seeing everyone give their questions and comments about how they thought I murdered you.
I saw.
it was very heartfelt. Their love for you, conveyed through how I probably murdered you.
Well, someone also said that they hoped I had stopped breathing and died. So
for real? Yeah, so that wasn't a cute one. That was a scary one.
Yeah, there was a few that were quite interesting.
But the biggest gaming news was probably the Battlefield 1 trailer that came out.
It's not a trailer. Well, it was an engine, and then there was some. They showed an engine, but the engine didn't show what the game was actually really going to be like. What happened was they leaked a store display was leaked, and clearly showed a Zeppelin crashing, a trench club. In the guy's hand, and I mean, what's pretty easy to ascertain from this, and I think this is actually pretty cool. I don't play a lot of these types of games. Is we're looking at probably a World War I themed shooter called Battlefield 1.
Yeah, but so it's an announcement trailer, whatever you want to call it. Either way, we're not 100% positive that that'll be all the gameplay footage, but it's using the engine at least to render that shit out.
Sure, they just wanted to show off the graphics. Was basically what that was.
And so, why I'm interested in this, and I went over the prior week by myself, why the overwhelming negative reaction to to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, because all of a sudden now it's a space game. This is back to the basics, and there is that diehard audience that doesn't want to go into space, that loves both the Battlefield series and Call of Duty. They want it to be just sniper rifles, machine guns, tanks,
right?
Bombers. Like, that's what I want. And so World War I is where a lot of that stuff first came to pass. Machine guns, aerial dogfighting, tanks. World War I was the first big conflict using all that stuff. The first modern warfare, which is why Battlefield said we're going back to the basics. So it's risky to do that just because World War I, for some weird reason, is not really touched upon at all in popular culture ever. There's rarely any movies made about World War I.
Correct.
They had that Spielberg one that came out a few years ago about the horse. Before that, I can't even think of one that came out.
No, it's practically untouched in terms of video games and a lot of media.
Sure.
Which is not to say that there aren't books and history written about it. Obviously, there is. But in terms of popular media, it's not particularly done. So what's interesting to me about this is there was a huge backlash early on, like I'd say early 360, when Modern Warfare came out and Battlefield started moving into the modern era. People found it refreshing because they were getting sick and tired of constant World War II shooters. As a matter of fact, when Call of Duty did World at War, everyone was like, what the fuck? You just did Modern Warfare and that was great, and now we're already going back to World War II. But with each push into the future that Call of Duty has done, it's lost a lot of people because you have started to, whether it's your theme or not, whether you like it or not, they're encroaching on territory that's already being done, which is space and sci-fi. So you're losing people who want something grounded in some sort of realism.
Yeah, so remember less than 2 years ago, you had the Advanced Warfare come out with Kevin Spacey. That was like November of 2014. And that was already taking the jump to new technology with like
exosuits, basically.
Exosuits. Basically, you're playing Unreal Tournament at that point. If you can do these huge jumps and use all these grappling hooks and things like that. And just like, okay, yeah, there's a market for that maybe, but those other games you can get that experience.
Right, exactly.
So then why put it in our game? Why not keep it pure? Why not say, okay, we have drone strikes and things like that, stuff that still exists now and it's modern, but now they're going 20 years in the future or 30 or 40 years, and that to me was even a stretch. But now to go 100 years in the future or more, and where it's like, okay, now this is Star Citizen. This is literally now going to become what Star Citizen's trying to do, or at the very least, Elite Dangerous. This Elite takes place in our universe, in our galaxy, like with Earth, but now we're just going to add the first-person shooter elements to it. It's just a weird decision. Now, obviously, it has nothing to do with Battlefield, but it just shows how two companies that both have the biggest first-person shooters are going in opposite directions. And we're going to see how it plays out in the fall, because Battlefield comes out, I believe, in October, and Modern Warfare is a month afterwards.
Infinite Warfare.
Infinite Warfare. Used to be modern. Now it's, Star Trek Warfare is coming out. But I'm excited, again, because World War I is not really touched upon. It was brutal. Absolutely brutal when you think about World War I, and the chemical weapons. The mustard gas was what it's famous for. They use other stuff though besides that, but mustard gas is a big one. That was horrific. That's why I was banned after World War One using that stuff. Trench warfare. You hear the term, but just literally two sides, not even, I don't know, 30 yards apart,
Right.
40 yards. Dig a trench, have both your sides in there, and just try to shoot each other for weeks on end with no one gaining ground. Or when you try to gain ground and you get mowed down by machine gun fire. It's just horrific, just like awful. So it was at a time when they were transitioning from older weapons and older military tactics to new ones with newer warfare, and trying to come to terms with, okay, now we got to deal with machine guns. Now we got to deal with these things called tanks, which before mechanized warfare didn't exist. Dog fighting,
Right.
using rudimentary bombers to attack enemies, and even using balloons to try to do recon, stuff like that. So it's using all the same strategies used in modern warfare, but this is the first time it was used.
Yeah, and it could create some interesting gameplay mechanics if they're smart. They're not just going to reskin the basic weapon archetypes. I want things to fire slower. I want things to be harder to control. I mean, they have a chance to make something strangely, very unique by setting it so far in the past.
Yeah, and you'll have melee combat probably. Like you said, it was I believe the Harlem Hellfighter guy in the cover with a pistol and the trench club. So there's probably going to be some trench combat going on where you have to depend upon your either bayonet or a knife or your club or mace to get by. So that's interesting to me. Obviously, I love dogfighting games, and this was the first time it was done. The Red Baron's most likely going to be in the game.
Do you think we'll get Snoopy?
Ian, that'll probably be DLC.
Oh, okay.
That'll be the CU podcast pre-order pack.
Snoopy the
order
World War
now
I
and play.
flying ace.
Order now and play as Snoopy.
Disturbing.
So you're gonna have that. You're gonna have battleships or primitive battleships and primitive bombers, and even there was there's gonna be horses in the game. They revealed you can have, this is when horses were getting phased out of warfare. So you can have horses. You say you can bring a horse to a tank fight. That's interesting to me. Just to see the different strategies you'll have with trying to stick with the more, more freedom of using. Because remember, back then tanks were not quick. They didn't move well. They were armored. You didn't have rocket launchers to take them down, but you could take them down. So you might want to use a horse and flank and do stuff with it. So I think this is going to be the real tail of the tape. If it sounds like, for the most part, that this was a great decision, because if you all the positive thumbs up for Battlefield 1 versus Infinite Warfare, where it's more thumbs down on the trailer than thumbs up, where people are like, what the hell did you do? You went way too far.
It hit a
for
million thumbs down, I think.
Yeah, those weren't all troll people. They're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
With Advanced Warfare, okay, we're with you there, maybe even, but now we're doing Elite Dangerous basically, and it's like, we didn't ask for that, and it won't be as good as Elite Dangerous. That space combat, it can't, because that's all that game's focused on. Oh, this is. It's going to be like you're in a plane, but you're in space. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's not like that's not what the focus of the game is.
Sure.